Hi, this is Rev Ed with today's Back Porch Devotional from Genesis chapter 32, verses 26 through 30. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day is broken." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go until you bless me." And he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked, "Please tell me your name." But he asked, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered." The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. Jacob wrestled all night with the angel of the Lord, and he realized that it was indeed the Lord, because the name Peniel, which is the name Jacob gave to that place, means the face of God. So Jacob understood who it was that he was wrestling with, but he received the blessing that he asked for only after his hip had been put out of joint, only after he had been defeated by God, only after he had submitted to the Lord. And the point here is that Jacob received a blessing in the place where he submitted to the Lord. He received a blessing at the place where he understood that God was mightier than all of his scheming and all of his thinking and all of his designs. Jacob received a blessing only when he became humble before the face of God. And what we have to understand is that we are blessed by God first and foremost when we have an attitude of humility, when we no longer take pride in ourselves or in our strength or in our abilities, but when we take delight in God alone. There is a thing about us, particularly in our culture, that says we must always be strong, we must always stand on our own 2 feet, we must pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. And yet this is the wrong attitude for those who belong to Christ. We have to have an attitude of absolute humility. As Jesus said at the beginning of the Beatitudes, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Paul was writing about this strange relationship between our weakness and God's strength in the 12th chapter of 2 Corinthians, where he was talking about these visions he had received from God, but God gave him something to keep him from being too puffed up. And so beginning at verse 7, he says this, "So to keep me from being too elated by the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given to me in the flesh, a messenger from Satan to harass me, to keep me from being too elated. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Jacob discovered that it was only when he admitted his own weakness and submitted to God that he could be blessed. And so we too must discover that it is in our weakness that God comes alongside us. When we insist on standing on our own 2 feet, doing things in our own strength, operating according to our own understanding and intelligence, that's what sets us up for failure, as it did for Jacob. But when we throw ourselves in utter dependence on God, we know that he is alongside us, and it is his strength that is given to us. When we are weak, then we are strong. This is the paradox of the gospel life, but it is the place we must enter into if we are going to be blessed. So rejoice today that God has given you more than you can handle, which teaches us to depend on him every single day. It is in that place of dependence and humility that we will find our true blessing from the Lord. God's blessings be upon you today.